I've ended lives without hesitation, signed orders that made men disappear, watched empires crumble with a single phone call. But watching my son fade away? That's the one thing I couldn't control. My name is Shin Dong-hyun. In Seoul's underworld, people whisper it in back alleys and boardrooms alike. I control ports, politicians, pipelines. I own silence. I own obedience. But I couldn't own this. Seo-jun lay in that hospital bed under fluorescent lights that made his skin look like wax. He was 6 months old. He should have been grabbing at my fingers, gurgling, kicking those fat little legs. Instead, he was still. Too still. Dr. Kennedy stood across from me, clipboard in hand, using that clinical tone doctors have when they've run out of answers. We've run every test, Mr. Shin. Blood work, imaging, neurological assessments. There's no infection, no structural abnormality, no clear diagnosis. He paused, adjusting his glasses. His vitals are stable, but he's unresponsive, lethargic. It's as if he's simply given up. I stared at him. Babies don't give up. Kennedy hesitated. I saw the calculation in his eyes. He knew who I was. Everyone did. Sometimes, in rare cases, infants can exhibit what we call failure to thrive. It's not always physical. Environmental factors, emotional deprivation. You're saying I starved my son of love? My voice cut through the room like ice. He backpedaled fast. I'm saying we don't have a medical explanation. I'm sorry. Sorry. I'd heard that word before, from men begging for their lives. It never meant anything. I turned back to Seo-jun. His tiny chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. His eyes, when they opened, were empty, like he was looking through me, past me, at nothing. I'd built an empire on fear, controlled entire territories with a nod, made grown men cry with a glance, but this baby, my son, he didn't even see me. The machines beeped softly, rhythmic, mocking. I reached out, touched his hand. It was so small, so impossibly small. And for the first time in 20 years, I felt something I'd buried deep. Fear. Not the kind I used to control others, the kind that makes you small, powerless. The kind that whispers, you did this. I thought of the penthouse, sterile, silent. The nanny I paid well to keep him quiet and out of sight while I worked. The nights I came home late, smelling of smoke and blood, and didn't even check on him. I thought of his mother, gone before he turned 2 months old. A transaction gone wrong, my fault, always my fault. And now Seo-jun was slipping away. The doctors couldn't explain it, but deep down, I knew. He wasn't dying from disease. He was dying because I'd given him everything except the one thing that mattered. I'd given him a crib lined with silk, a nursery painted by professionals, toys he'd never touched, but I'd never given him me. Before I even tell you what happened next, let me ask you this. Have you ever failed someone who needed you most? If you have, you'll feel this story deep in your soul. And if you know that kind of pain, hit subscribe. Not because it helps me, but because stories like this remind us that sometimes the hardest person to face is yourself. The doctor said my son was dying, not from disease, but from something I couldn't buy, couldn't threaten, couldn't bury. What do you do when the problem is you? The hospital became my new headquarters. I had my men post guards at every entrance, no one in or out without my approval. I slept in a chair by Seo-jun's bed, my hand resting near his tiny fingers. He never reached for me. The nurses rotated in shifts, polite, efficient, terrified. They knew who I was. They avoided eye contact, did their jobs and left, except one, Marissa. She was small, dark-skinned, hair pulled back in a neat bun. She didn't flinch when she entered the room, didn't avert her gaze. She greeted me the same way every time. Good morning, Mr. Shin. Not sir, not boss, just my name. unnerved me. One evening, as she checked Seo-jun's monitors, I watched her. She moved with a gentleness I hadn't seen in years, adjusted his blanket, smoothed his hair, hummed softly under her breath. "Why do you do that?" I asked. She glanced at me. "Do what?" "Touch him like that, talk to him, he doesn't respond." Her eyes met mine, steady, unflinching. "He's still here," she said simply. "He deserves to be treated like he matters." I didn't know what to say to that. She continued her work, checking his IV, adjusting the blanket again. Her movements were careful, deliberate, like Seo-jun was made of glass. "Most people are afraid of me," I said finally. "I know." "You're not." She paused, then looked at me again. "Should I be? Everyone else is." "I'm not everyone else." She finished her checks and started toward the door. "Marissa." She stopped, turned. "What makes you different?" She tilted her head slightly, considering. Then she smiled, small, sad, knowing. "Because I've seen worse than you, Mr. Shin. And I've seen better. Right now, all I see is a father who doesn't know how to hold his son." She left before I could respond. The words hung in the air. A father who doesn't know how to hold his son. She wasn't afraid of me, and somehow that scared me more than any enemy ever had. Why does gentleness feel like a threat? Days bled into each other. Dr. Kennedy brought in specialists, pediatric neurologists, geneticists. They poked and prodded and came back with nothing. Seo-jun's body was fine, but his eyes, when they opened, were empty. One night, Marissa found me staring out the window. The city lights stretched endlessly below. My city, my kingdom, it felt hollow. "You should go home," she said quietly. "Get some real rest." "I don't have a home," I said before I could stop myself. She tilted her head. "You have a house, don't you?" "It's not the same." She was quiet for a moment, then, "What does Seo-jun have?" I turned to look at her. "What?" "At home. Does he have a nursery? Toys? Does someone sing to him, read to him?" "He has everything he needs." "That's not what I asked." Her eyes were steady, not accusing, just waiting. I thought of the penthouse, sterile, silent, white walls, marble floors. A nanny I paid well to keep the baby quiet and out of sight while I worked. I thought of the nursery I'd never entered, the toys still in their boxes, the books on shelves gathering dust. I thought of the nights I came home late smelling of smoke and blood and didn't even check on him. "I provide for him," I said, my voice harder than I intended. "Providing isn't the same as being present. You don't know anything about me." "I know you're here now," she said. "That's something." She moved to adjust Seo-jun's blanket, her hands gentle. "Do you know what babies need most, Mr. Shin?" "What?" "Consistency. Someone who shows up, not just physically, emotionally. They need to know that when they cry, someone will come. When they're scared, someone will hold them. When they're alone, someone will notice." She looked at me. "Your son has a beautiful nursery, expensive toys, the best medical care money can buy. But what he doesn't have is you." The words landed like a punch. I stood abruptly and walked out. You know what hurts the most? Not what they did, but realizing too late what really mattered. If you've ever chosen the wrong things to chase, you already understand this pain. Don't just scroll, subscribe. Join people who've been through it too, because you deserve stories that make you feel seen. I'd built an empire, conquered territories, made men bow. But when I looked out at my city that night, all I felt was nothing. When did winning start to feel like losing? The next morning I watched Marissa with Seo-jun again. She spoke to him constantly, told him about her day, about the weather, about a stray cat she'd seen in the parking lot. She cradled his hand in hers, tracing circles on his palm. "Why are you doing this?" I asked. He doesn't understand you. Maybe not the words, she said, but he understands the feeling. What feeling? That he's worth someone's time. Her words cut deeper than any blade. I stood abruptly and walked out. I found Dr. Kennedy in his office. I want another opinion, I said. Bring in someone from Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic. I don't care what it costs. Kennedy looked tired. Mr. Shin, we've consulted with some of the best. Then consult with better, he sighed. This isn't a problem money can solve. Everything is a problem money can solve. Not this. I slammed my hand on his desk. The coffee cup rattled. Then what do? Sit there and watch my son fade away? Kennedy met my eyes. For the first time, I saw something other than fear. Pity. I think you need to ask yourself what he's fading away from, Mr. Shin. The question hung between us. Medically, there's nothing wrong with him. His body works, his brain works, but something inside him has shut down. And in my 20 years of pediatric medicine, I've seen this before. Where? In orphanages, in homes where children are fed and clothed but never held, never spoken to, never loved. He leaned forward. Your son isn't sick, Mr. Shin, he's lonely. The word hit me like a bullet. Lonely. A 6-month-old baby, lonely because of me. Dr. Kennedy looked at me like I was the disease. And maybe he was right. How do you cure yourself when you don't even know you're sick? That night I sat alone with Seo-jun. The room was dim. The machines beeped softly. His chest rose and fell in a rhythm that should have been comforting but only reminded me how fragile he was. I reached out and touched his hand. It was so small. I don't know how to do this, I whispered. He didn't move. I don't know how to be what you need. Silence. I don't know if I even can. The door opened. Marissa stepped in carrying a bottle of formula. Feeding time, she said gently. I watched. As she lifted Seo-jun carefully, cradling him against her chest. She positioned the bottle, coaxed him to drink. He took a little, not much, but something. How do you do that? I asked. Do what? Make him respond. She looked at me for a long moment. I don't make him do anything, I just show up every day, same time, same voice. Babies need consistency, they need to know someone will be there. I'm here. Are you? Her tone wasn't cruel, just honest. I'm sitting right here, I said, defensive. Your body is, but where's the rest of you? I didn't answer. She set Seo-jun back down, adjusted his blanket, then she turned to me. Can I ask you something, Mr. Shin? What? When's the last time you held him? I blinked. What? Your son, when's the last time you held him? Not handed him off to someone else, not stood over his crib, actually held him. I opened my mouth, closed it. I couldn't remember. The nanny had brought him home from the hospital. She'd handled the feedings, the diaper changes, the crying. I'd signed the checks. That's what I thought, Marissa said softly. She moved toward the door, then paused. He doesn't need your money, Mr. Shin. He doesn't need your power. He doesn't need guards or specialists or a mansion. She looked back at me. He needs his father. The door closed behind her, and I sat there in the darkness holding the weight of a question I couldn't answer. When I finally had to face the truth, I felt weaker than I'd ever felt in my life. But tell me, where's the strength in pretending you have all the answers? If you've ever had to choose honesty over pride, this channel is a space for every person who found courage in admitting they were lost. I'd held dying men in my arms. I'd carried bodies through alleyways. But I couldn't remember the last time I held my own son. What kind of man forgets that? The next day, I came back to the room with something I hadn't felt in years. Fear. Not the kind I used to control. Others. The kind that made me small. Marissa was there, as always. Can you... I started, then stopped. She waited. Can you show me how to hold him? Her expression softened. Of course. She moved to the bed, lifting Seo-jun gently, so carefully, like he was made of porcelain. Then she turned to me. Support his head, she said, guiding my arms into position like this. One hand under his neck, the other under his back. She transferred him to me slowly. And suddenly I was holding my son. He was so light, so impossibly light. And for the first time I felt the weight of what I'd been avoiding. This wasn't a business deal. This wasn't something I could delegate or intimidate into submission. This was a life, a tiny, helpless life that depended on me. And I had failed him. Talk to him, Marissa said quietly. I don't know what to say. Start with the truth. I looked down at Seo-jun. His eyes were closed, his breathing soft, his face so peaceful, so innocent. I'm sorry, I whispered. The words cracked something open inside me. I'm sorry I wasn't here. I'm sorry I didn't know how. My voice broke. I thought if I gave you everything that would be enough, money, safety, a future, but it's not, is it? His tiny hand twitched. I froze. Keep going, Marissa urged. I don't know how to be a father, I said, my throat tight. I don't know how to be gentle. I don't know how to love without it hurting. Seo-jun's fingers curled. Around mine. It was so small, so fragile, but it was there. A grip. My son was holding my finger. I looked up at Marissa, stunned. She was smiling. He heard you. Tears blurred my vision. I didn't try to stop them. For the first time in my life, I let myself break. Not from weakness, from feeling something real. He's holding my hand, I whispered. He is, Marissa said, because you finally showed up. I held my son, and he held me back. And in that moment I understood. Power meant nothing, money meant nothing, fear meant nothing. This tiny hand wrapped around my finger, this was everything. She told me to start with the truth. But what if the truth is that I don't know how to be what he needs? What if I'm too broken to fix this? Over the next 3 days, I barely left that room. My second-in-command called. Territory disputes, shipment delays, a rival making moves on the west side. I told him to handle it. You never let me handle it, he said, confused. You're handling it now. I hung up. Marissa watched from the corner, saying nothing, but I saw the approval in her eyes. Every morning I held Seo-jun. At first my arms were stiff, uncertain, like I was holding a bomb that might go off. But Marissa was patient. Relax your shoulders, she'd say. He can feel your tension. So I relaxed. Talk to him. It doesn't matter what you say. So I talked. About the city, about my childhood, about his mother, things I'd never said out loud. She would have been better at this than me, I whispered one afternoon. She wanted you so badly, and I was scared. Scared of what it would mean, scared I'd fail. Seo-jun's eyes opened, focused on my face. Really focused. She died protecting you, I continued, my voice breaking. A deal went wrong. She was there when she shouldn't have been, and it's my fault. A tear rolled down my cheek. I couldn't save her, but I can show up for you, I can try. Seo-jun made a sound, not a cry. A coo, soft, curious. Marissa stepped closer. He's responding to your voice. He is? Look at him. He's looking at you. And he was. For the first time since he'd been admitted, Seo-jun was really looking at me. Not through me, not past me, at me. Hey, little man, I whispered, my voice shaking. I'm here. I'm right here. His lips curved, just slightly. A smile. My son smiled at me. I pressed my forehead to his, closed my eyes, let the tears fall. I'm so sorry, I whispered, for everything I wasn't, everything I didn't do. I'm here now. I promise I'm here. And as I held him, I felt something shift. Not in him, in me. He smiled, one small movement. But was it real? Or was I so desperate I saw what I wanted to see? And if it was real, what happens when I fail him again? On the fourth day, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. I ignored it. On the fifth day, my second-in-command showed up in person. The guards tried to stop him. He pushed past. "We have a problem," he said, bursting into the room. I was feeding Seo-jun. Marissa had shown me how, the angle of the bottle, the pace. "Not now," I said. "Boss, the Huang crew is moving on our territory. They hit 3 of our locations. They know you're distracted." I didn't look up. "So handle it. Handle it. They're calling you weak. They're saying Shin Dong-hyun has gone soft over a baby." The old me would have exploded, would have grabbed him by the throat, made an example. The old me would have left immediately, reminded everyone why they feared my name, but Seo-jun was drinking. His tiny hand rested on the bottle. His eyes, clear now, focused, looked up at me. "Let them talk," I said quietly. "Boss, I said handle it. Negotiate. Pay them off if you have to. I don't care." "Pay them off? We don't pay anyone off. We make them pay." I finally looked at him. "Things are different now." "Yeah, I can see that." His eyes moved to Seo-jun. Disgust flickered across his face. "You're choosing this over the empire we built?" I held my son closer. "I'm choosing him over everything." He stared at me. "You've changed." "I know. They're going to eat us alive." "Then let them." He shook his head, walked out, and I knew everything I'd built was crumbling. My reputation, my territory, my power, all of it slipping away. Because I was here, holding a bottle, watching my son's eyes flutter as he drank. Marissa appeared in the doorway. "That was a hard choice," she said. "Was it the right one?" She smiled sadly. "Only time will tell." I looked down at Seo-jun. He'd finished eating. His eyes were closing, content, safe, in my arms. "I don't know if I can do this," I whispered. "Choose him and lose everything else." "You're not losing everything," Marissa said. "You're finding out what actually matters." I built that empire with blood, and now I was letting it burn, for a baby who might not even remember I was here. Was I becoming a better father or just a weaker boss? 2 weeks later, the news came. We'd lost the West Side, completely. The Huang crew had taken everything. Our warehouses, our distribution points, our contacts. 40% of my revenue, gone. My lieutenant stood in the hospital hallway, voice low but urgent. "They're not stopping, boss. They're pushing east now. They smell blood." I felt the old rage building, the familiar heat rising in my chest. That instinct, that survival mechanism that had kept me alive for 20 years. Destroy them. Make an example. Remind everyone what happens when they cross Shin Dong-hyun. I turned toward the room. Seo-jun was sleeping. Marissa sat beside him reading a book. Peaceful. Safe. Everything I'd fought to protect. "Boss, give me a minute," I said. I walked into the room, grabbed my jacket from the chair. Marissa looked up. "Where are you going?" "I have to handle something." "Now?" "It can't wait." She stood. "Shin." "Don't," I said sharply. "You don't understand. They're taking everything. If I don't stop this now, then what? You'll go back to being the man you were?" "I'll go back to being the man who can protect his son." By leaving him, the words stopped me cold. I looked at Seo-jun, still sleeping, unaware of the war being waged over his father's soul. "If I lose everything," I said quietly, "what kind of life can I give him? What kind of father will you be if you leave now?" I clenched my fists. The rage was still there, burning, demanding release. A junior doctor passed by the doorway, accidentally bumped my shoulder. "Watch where you're—" I started, turning. The young doctor's eyes went wide with fear. And then I saw it, reflected in his terrified face, the monster I used to be. I glanced back at the bed. Seo-jun's eyes were open now, wide, watching me, He'd seen that look, that rage, that fear. And something in his expression changed. The light that had been growing there, the trust, flickered. He was learning to fear me just like everyone else. Marissa stepped between us. He saw that, Shin. He felt that. My hands were shaking. I can't let them. Yes, you can. You can let it go. For him. I looked at my son, at the fear in his innocent eyes, fear I put there. I don't know how to be both, I whispered. The man who protects him and the man he's not afraid of. Then choose, Marissa said, right now. Choose who you want to be. When I saw fear in my son's eyes, fear I put there, everything changed. They called me weak for choosing peace. But tell me, what's weaker, protecting your reputation or protecting your child's soul? If you've ever had to make an impossible choice, subscribe. Because somewhere out there, another person needs to know they're not alone in choosing love over fear. I saw fear in my son's eyes, the same fear I'd put in 1,000 men. And I realized he'd learned to survive me, not love me. How do you unlearn being a monster? I stood in that hospital room for what felt like an eternity. My lieutenant was waiting in the hallway. My enemies were circling. My empire was bleeding out, and my son was watching me. Marissa was right. I had to choose. I pulled out my phone, made the call. Stand down, I said. Silence on the other end. Boss, if we stand down, negotiate with them. Give them the east side. Give them? Are you insane? That's half of what we have left. I know what it is. They'll think you're finished. They'll come for everything. Then let them come. More silence. I don't understand. You don't have to. Just do it. I hung up. My hands were still shaking. Every instinct I had screamed that I was making a mistake, that I was signing my own death warrant. But when I looked at Seo-jun, the shaking stopped. Marissa exhaled slowly. That took courage. That took stupidity, I said. I just gave away my empire. You chose your son over your ego. My ego kept us alive. And now it's time for something else to keep you alive. I sat down heavily in the chair beside Seo-jun's bed, ran my hands through my hair. They're going to come for me, I said. When word gets out that I've gone soft, every rival I ever made will want a piece. I won't be able to protect him. You're protecting him right now. By being here? By holding him? That doesn't stop bullets, Marissa. She knelt beside my chair, looked me in the eye. You want to know what stops bullets? Teaching your son that some things are worth more than power. That love is stronger than fear, that a father's presence is worth more than a father's empire. That sounds nice. But in the real world, your son was dying because you weren't here. And now he's getting better because you are. That's not philosophy. That's fact. I looked at Seo-jun. His eyes were still on me. The fear was fading. Slowly he reached out his hand toward me. I took it, his tiny fingers wrapped around my thumb. I don't know if this is the right choice, I whispered. Neither do I, Marissa admitted. But it's the only choice that lets you sleep at night holding him instead of guarding him from a distance. She was right. I'd spent 20 years building walls. Guards, territories, all to protect myself. But my son didn't need walls. He needed me. I chose my son over my empire. My men thought I'd gone soft. My enemies smelled blood. And I wondered, did I just save Seo-jun or destroy his future? The change in Seo-jun was undeniable. Within days, he was eating more. His eyes tracked movement. He made sounds, soft coos that felt like entire conversations. Dr. Kennedy brought in his team to observe. This is unprecedented, he said, reviewing the charts. Medically, nothing has changed, but clinically, he trailed off, shaking his head. What? I asked. He's thriving. His weight is up. His responsiveness is remarkable. Whatever you're doing, Mr. Shin, keep doing it. What I was doing was simple. I showed up. Every morning I held him, fed him, talked to him, read him stories even though he couldn't understand the words. Marissa taught me everything. How to burp him, how to change his diaper, how to recognize his different cries. "That's hungry," she'd say. "That's tired, I just want attention." And slowly I learned his language. But while my son was healing, my world was falling apart. News reached me in fragments, whispered conversations my men tried to hide. The Huang crew had taken the east side, just like I'd told them to allow. But they hadn't stopped there. They'd hit our remaining operations, poached our people, spread word that Shin Dong-hyun was finished. My second in command came less frequently. When he did, the respect in his eyes had dimmed. "They're calling you weak," he said one afternoon. I was holding Seo-jun, rocking him gently. "Let them. They're saying the great Shin Dong-hyun chose a baby over his empire." I looked at my son. His eyes, so clear now, so alive, gazed back at me. "They're right." My lieutenant shook his head. "I don't know who you are anymore." "Neither do I admitted. "But I'm trying to figure it out." He left without another word. That night, Marissa found me staring at my phone. Messages from associates, threats from rivals, news of another territory lost. "You're thinking about going back," she said. "I'm thinking about what happens when I have nothing left to give him." "You have yourself. That's what he needs." "Myself doesn't pay for his future, doesn't keep him safe when my enemies come calling." She sat beside me. "Your son was dying, with all your money and power, and he's living now with less of both. What does that tell you?" My son was healing, but my world was falling apart, and I had to ask myself, if I lose everything to save him, will he grow up resenting that I had nothing left to give? 3 weeks in, my main business partner called, Park Jin-woo. We'd built the empire together, 20 years of partnership. "We need to meet," he said, "now. I'm with my son. This can't wait." I looked at the clock. 11 in the morning. Seo-jun had physical therapy at noon. Marissa had taught me the exercises. I never missed them. "Schedule it for tomorrow," I said. "Tomorrow we won't have a business to discuss. I'm giving you 1 hour. Either you show up or I walk, and I take 40% of what's left with me." The line went dead. 40%. That would leave me with almost nothing. Barely enough to survive, let alone rebuild. Marissa had heard. She stood in the doorway. "You have to go," she said quietly. "Seo-jun has therapy. I can take him. I've never missed a session." "I know, but if you lose that partnership, then I lose it." She stared at me. "Shin, be practical. He's your son. You need to be able to provide." I'm providing presence, consistency. The one thing he never had. "And what about next month, next year, when the money runs out?" It was a fair question. I looked at Seo-jun. He was playing with a soft toy, grabbing it, bringing it to his mouth. Normal baby things he couldn't do 3 weeks ago. "You told me to show up," I said, "every day, same time, same voice, that babies need to know someone will be there." "Yes, but if I leave now, what does that teach him? That he's only worth my time when it's convenient? That business comes first?" Marissa's expression softened. "You don't have to prove anything to me. I have to prove it to him and to myself." I picked up my phone, called Park back. "I'm not coming," I said. Then where?" "Done." "I understand. You're throwing away everything we built." "No, I'm building something new." I hung up. Marissa watched me, tears in her eyes. That was brave. That was terrifying. At noon, I took Seo-jun to therapy, helped him with his exercises, watched him grab my fingers and squeeze. That evening, I got the message. Park had pulled out, taken his share. My empire, what was left of it, was barely more than scraps. I watched my empire crumble through a window while my son learned to smile. And I still don't know if I made the right choice. How do you measure what matters when both things feel essential? 6 weeks after admission, Dr. Kennedy discharged Seo-jun. Medically cleared, he said, reviewing the final tests. Thriving, responsive, healthy weight. I've never seen anything like it. What changed? I asked, though I already knew. Kennedy looked at me, really looked at me. You did, Mr. Shin. I carried Seo-jun out of that hospital myself. Marissa walked beside me, carrying his bag. My men were waiting outside, 3 cars, half of what I used to have. They looked at me differently now. Less fear, less respect. Some of them looked at me with something worse, pity. Word had spread fast. Shin Dong-hyun was finished. The empire was gutted. The territories lost. The partnerships dissolved. I was no longer the most feared man in Seoul. I was just a man carrying his son. We drove to the penthouse. It looked different somehow. Smaller. Emptier. I'd let half the staff go, couldn't afford them anymore. The nursery I'd never entered was exactly as I'd left it. Pristine, untouched, like a museum. I set Seo-jun down in his crib. He immediately started crying. Marissa smiled. He doesn't want to be put down, he wants you. So I picked him up, held him, and he stopped crying, just like that. I don't know who I am anymore, I said quietly. Marissa was unpacking his things. Who do you want to be? I used to be someone people feared. And now? I looked at Seo-jun. His eyes, so bright, so trusting, gazed up at me. Now I'm just... his father? Just? I built an empire, Marissa, and I let it crumble for this. She stopped unpacking, turned to face me. Let me ask you something. If you could go back, have all your power, all your territory, all your respect, but Seo-jun goes back to how he was, would you? I didn't hesitate. No. Then you didn't lose everything. You just found out what was real. That night, former associates called. Some mocking, some gloating. One, my oldest rival, just laughed. The great Shin Dong-hyun, brought down by a baby. I hung up, looked at Seo-jun sleeping peacefully in my arms. They're right, I whispered. You did bring me down, but you also built me back up. They stopped fearing me. And for the first time in my life, I didn't know who I was without that fear. Was I still Shin Dong-hyun, or had I become someone else entirely? I spent the next month rebuilding, not the empire. Something smaller, something honest. I took the scraps of what remained, 2 warehouses, 1 distribution route, and went legitimate. Import/export, legal, licensed, taxed. My former associates thought I'd lost my mind. You're going straight? One asked, disbelieving. I'm going sustainable. It was slower, harder. The profit margins were a fraction of what they'd been. But I could sleep at night, and every evening I came home to Seo-jun. Marissa had agreed to stay on as his nanny, though it felt like more than that now. She was family. He said his first word today, she told me one evening. My heart stopped. What was it? She smiled. Dada. I dropped my briefcase, rushed to the nursery. Seo-jun was in his crib playing with blocks. Hey, little man, I said, kneeling beside him. He looked up, smiled. Dada? I started crying. Couldn't help it, my son, speaking, thriving, alive. All because I'd chosen to show up. One afternoon I saw him, my old rival, the one who'd laughed, who'd taken my Western territory. He was across the street, at a restaurant, surrounded by his crew. The old me would have crossed that street, made a scene, reminded him who I used to be. But Seo-jun was in my arms. We locked eyes. He smirked, raised his glass in mock salute. I looked down at my son, then back at him, and I nodded. Just once, an acknowledgement, not of defeat, of something more important. I'd chosen differently. And I turned away. Marissa, walking beside me, squeezed my arm. "That was hard," she said. "It was necessary." "Are you happy with this life?" I looked at Seo-jun. He was reaching for a bird flying overhead, laughing, really laughing. "I don't know if I'm happy," I admitted, "but I'm present, and maybe that's better." I used to own the city. Now I could barely hold on to 3 blocks. But when Seo-jun looked at me, I didn't see fear anymore. And maybe that's the only empire I ever really needed. 6 months later, Seo-jun's first birthday. We celebrated in the penthouse. Small party, just Marissa, a few trusted people, none of my old crew. Seo-jun sat in his high chair, cake smashed all over his face, laughing, clapping his chubby hands. He was walking now, talking. Dada had become his favorite word. Every time he said it, my heart broke and healed simultaneously. Marissa brought out a small cake for me, too. "What's this for?" I asked. "Your birthday," she said. "You've been reborn, too." Maybe she was right. The business was stable now. Not wealthy, not powerful, but enough. Enough to provide for Seo-jun. Enough to come home at a decent hour, enough to be present. That evening, after everyone left, I sat in the nursery watching my son sleep. He clutched a small stuffed bear, the one Marissa had given him in the hospital. "You saved me," I whispered. "You'll never know it." "But you did." Marissa appeared in the doorway. "He's peaceful," she said. "He is." "And you?" I considered the question. "I'm learning to be." She sat beside me. "Do you regret it, giving it all up?" I thought about the empire, the power, the fear, the hollow feeling that came with it all. "Every single day," I admitted. "I think about what I lost, who I used to be, the respect, the control. But then he wakes up and he smiles at me and he reaches for me, not my money, not my name, just me." I paused, and I realize I didn't lose anything. I was empty the whole time. I just didn't know it. Marissa nodded. "You're a good father, Shin." "I'm trying to be. That's all anyone can do." Later that night, I stood on the balcony, looking out at the city, my city, or what used to be. Other people controlled it now. Huang, Park, others who'd carved up my empire. I should have felt rage, resentment, the burning need for revenge. Instead, I felt peace. Not complete, not perfect, but peace. I'd spent 20 years building something that could be taken in 20 weeks, but what I had now, this connection with my son, that was unbreakable. My phone buzzed, a message from an old associate. "Heard you've gone soft, pathetic." I deleted it. Seo-jun cried out from the nursery, not distressed, just calling for me. I went to him, picked him up, held him close. "I'm here," I whispered. "I'm always here." And he relaxed against my chest, trusting, safe. This was my empire now, not territory or money or fear, just this tiny human who needed me, who saw me, not my power, not my reputation, just me, and chose to love me anyway. They say power is everything. But I learned the truth in that hospital room. Power is nothing if you have no one to come home to, no one to hold, no one who needs you, not your money, not your name, just you. Seo-jun didn't save me. He exposed me, showed me what I'd built my life on was hollow. I'm still not a good man. I've done things I can't undo, hurt people I can't bring back. But every morning when my son reaches for me, I choose to be better than I was yesterday, and maybe that's all redemption ever is. Not forgiveness, not absolution. Just the daily choice to carry the weight and keep moving forward. I don't know if I deserve forgiveness, but tomorrow when Seo-jun wakes up, I'll try again. Sometimes the hardest stories to tell are the ones about ourselves. And if this touched you, subscribe right now. Because somewhere out there, another person is watching in silence, needing a reminder that change is possible, that even the darkest soul can choose light. Your one click might help them find it. These stories aren't about crime. They're about what breaks us and what saves us.